Hello everybody. So today we are going to do probably my quickest design that I have. This one is super simple. It's part of my Aurora Nights series called From the Treetops, and it has these adorable three little triplet cubs hanging out in a tree admiring the aurora, and it is part of a series I did back in 2019 that I called Aurora Nights. And you can buy this kit as an individual kit, which is what we have here, and it will finish like what you see here. It has the center panel, of course, that you put together, your borders and your binding for a single. If you want to do the complete kit, this is the complete kit. Here you can see it here. It's part one of 5 pieces. There's a, can't kind of see it because this caribou guy's in the way, but there's caribou with the Mount Redoubt, which is down here in the Kenai Peninsula. Let's see if I can get it, move this so you can see. I'll just pull this out so you can see the full one. So the Aurora Nights includes the full kit, includes the Across the Flats, which has the caribou, Mount Redoubt in the background. If you've ever been to my area, my neck of the woods down here on the Kenai Peninsula, Mount Redoubt is one of 4 volcanoes that are across the inlet from us. Then there is the Through the Forest, which is the wolf pack running through the forest at night with the aurora in the background. At the park meaning in Alaska, if you talk about the park, usually you're talking about Denali National Park, with Mount McKinley in the background here, also called Denali, the tallest peak in North America, with a moose in the foreground, again, admiring the lovely aurora. Are From the Treetops, the little cubs checking out the sky, and then up at the top in the Arctic has a polar bear admiring the aurora reflecting off of the Arctic Ocean. So we have from the South Central up into the interior, up to the north of Alaska. What a coincidence. It happens to fit the geography of the state. Oh wait, no, I did that on purpose actually, because I'm like that. I think about these patterns a long time before I actually put them together. So there's usually a plan in mind. Once in a while I do something coincidental, but most of the time it's pretty well thought out. So if you're ever interested in doing more than just the Treetops, or if you want any of the others, all of these are available as singles or as this complete kit. And you can see in the back here, it has all the appliques for all 5 blocks, as well as borders and binding. So all my kits include all the laser cut pieces, and then of course everything you need that you can see from the top here. So all your borders and your binding. But we're not doing that one today. We're just going to put together the From the Treetops. And the other thing about all of the designs in the Aurora Nights is that they're all very fast. This is a design that you can put together, all 5 of them, very quickly. I mean, this one is going to probably be my fastest video if I would be quiet and just get on with it. So the pattern is going to come with your cover, your cutting instructions and your assembly instructions, and then this big page here that has your layout, and it has, oh sorry, hold on, the layout's over here, your layout, and then it has all of your appliques. So if you're tracing and cutting everything on your own on this one, I highly recommend you go on and you watch my fusible tutorial, which goes through the process if you were to trace and cut these out on your own. We're of course doing a laser kit, so I have all my laser pieces here, and I've gone ahead and I've labeled everything. So you can see this applique, Aurora piece C, Aurora A, Aurora B, and Aurora D, all here. And then we have our mountain piece, which is already cut out for us, and we have all the little mountain accent pieces here, and you can see that I've, oh, maybe you can't, you can see that I've labeled everything. So the way that they're cut out, you're going to always write on the paper side. Number one, I should tell people that, because every once in a while somebody starts writing on the fabric side, and if it's a light colored fabric like this and you put pencil marks all over it, you're going to be really bummed because they're not going to come out. Or they're going to be difficult to come out. I love to use one of these kind of pencils, the little mechanical ones, because they always stay nice and sharp. And I've just gone ahead and labeled 2, 2, 3, 3, 5, 5, 9, 9, 6, 4, 7, 8. They're all just exactly like you see them here. And generally on all my appliques, I do kind of keep them in the order that you see, unless for some reason maybe something's off to the side in a weird way. And in my machine, for my laser machine, I have a certain amount of space I can cut with. And so every once in a while I will have to move something. But in general, I try to keep them just as they are. And then of course our tree silhouette over here is pretty obvious what it is. It's just one big piece. And here's my tree silhouette. I didn't even worry about labeling that one. So in the pattern instructions, I tell you to pre-wash all fabrics to block and remove excess dye. So all your laser cuts have already been pre-washed. They're already, especially ones like this black that I use a lot in things. This one will bleed a rusty color. And so I always pre-wash all my appliques for you guys. So you don't have to worry about these bleeding. They go through an actual regular wash cycle in my washer dryer. And the wash cycle rinses out any excess dye. The dryer cycle shrinks up your cotton goods, tightens up that weave, and then it also blocks. And what blocking is it takes your grain, and if you've ever had something that you've gotten out of the dryer and all of a sudden it kind of does this sort of deal where it's like twisty a little bit, that's because the grain was twisted initially, and when you go to wash it, it removes the dye, but when you go to dry everything, it will tighten up that weave. And it also, if the weave was a little bit twisted like this initially, it straightens it back out. So try to make that straight here. So we have our weave that maybe was like this from stretching over, getting wrapped on bolts and brought to your house and everything. You throw it in the dryer and those grains, they straighten themselves back out. So blocking is really important. Wall hangings, we don't wash them a lot, but you never know. You know, you have your kids over, grandkids, somebody comes over and they splat spaghetti sauce onto your wall and it gets across this and you need to wash it. You don't want to have everything all of a sudden come out and go stretch. However, I will also tell you that I recommend that if you do need to wash these, a wall hanging or a table runner, if it's something sorry, it's my iron beeping at us. If it's something as simple as dust or, you know, I have dogs, a lot of people, my parents have cats, I grew up with cats. If you're getting like hair and fuzz and dust on things, just take and roll with a sticky roller, and that will get all that hair and dust that kind of settles on your wall hangings as they're hanging on the wall. That's how I often will clean them. If you do get a stain, I usually will spot clean. You can throw these in the dryer, but when we go through the fusing part, I'll kind of go through this a little bit. The dryer sort of acts like our steaming cycle, right? Takes a wet thing, adds heat to dry it. And what you can end up doing is you can actually loosen the appliques at that point. So we'll go through that at the end, but just a note, the wash or the rinsing part of this, when it says to pre-wash, block, remove excess dye, that doesn't apply to your appliques, but it does apply to your backgrounds and your border fabrics and your binding. So those are tucked inside here. So you do want to take these big pieces, just rinse them in the sink until you're seeing with hot water, until you see any and all dye kind of start to wash out. Sometimes you don't see any, sometimes it's a lot. And as soon as your water is running clear, you're good to go. Throw it in the dryer and then iron them and you're ready. So let's start. We've got our background cut to the 7.5 by 24.5. This is the instructions for your individual wall hanging, of which I am doing, but I'm not going to put borders on in this tutorial. We're just going to arrange the appliques. So I would cut my borders and my binding, get those ready to go. Now, if you're not using a laser kit, step 3 is about tracing all the appliques on the paper side of your fusible, pressing it to the wrong side of your chosen fabrics and cutting all the pieces out. If you are doing that step, please feel free to watch my video on how to do fusible, because I go through how to do that when you're cutting it yourself. But we have a lovely laser kit. We don't have to do that part. So we're skipping forward to step 4. Place the nonstick pressing sheet over the layout guide and prearrange the mountain 1 through 9. Lightly fuse, remove from pressing sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna turn on my iron, get this out of my way. I grab my applique pressing sheet. So this pressing sheet, I will tell you, if you buy one of these, they're about $15 to $20, depending on where you get them. You can get it on Amazon. I believe the one that I bought is called the applique pressing sheet, and it's a 13 by 17. I'll turn this off for a second so you can see the color. This is the one that I use. It comes in a 13 by 17, which again, I said like is around $20 or less. And it also comes in an 18 by 20. You can buy it like where it's in a packaging that keeps it flat like this, or sometimes you'll see them and they'll be rolled up like this with a little rubber band around them. This particular pressing sheet right here, I've had since I was 19 years old. I am 19 plus 27. So this has survived for, wait a minute, I'm 19 plus 26 right now. My birthday hasn't happened yet. So anyways, it has survived for 26 years. I have used it countless times. I mean, thousands, I'm sure. And as you can see, it's in great shape. There's nothing wrong with it. It will last you forever. It's a great investment. If you get into doing these, getting a pressing sheet is a really good idea. This particular one, what I like about it is that you can see the design really well through the pressing sheet itself. There are some that are a darker color. It's harder to see these lines through those ones. They're the same sort of feel. It's just they're a darker brown, and I prefer this one. Like I said, it's called the applique pressing sheet. Secondly, there are some that have sort of like a grid through it, and they're a little tacky. The tackiness is nice in that it holds in place, but I find that the little grid lines that go through it that are, I think, some sort of a plastic, they sometimes make it hard to see detailed pieces or hard to find your numbers because they're not translucent. So highly recommend this one, this brand, the applique pressing sheet. And again, I know you can find it on Amazon. They've had them at places like I think Michael's probably has them. I know Joann's used to. Of course, they're gone now, but a lot of quilt shops will have them as well. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to try to arrange this so we can just see the mountain for the moment. Okay, we're going to pre-arrange our mountain, pieces 1 through 9. Now I didn't write 1 on this, but this light blue is piece 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to fold the edge against the paper. And I don't know if you can see how my paper has kind of peeled away, and I can take that off. This is discarded. And now the sticky part I'm going to lay on the pressing sheet and just lining it up with the mountain. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my piece 2 and I'm just going to pop it out here. So you just give it a kind of little tug. I fold towards the paper on a corner somewhere, and it kind of helps to loosen the paper up from the applique itself so I can peel it off. So there's number 2, and I'm going to place it, I believe that goes right there. So I'm just lining it up with the edge. Now, this one is supposed to line up with the very top of the mountain, right? So I'll start at the top of the mountain and let it kind of fall where it wants to go. Number 3, that's one of the other things with these. You don't want to force anything. So if you're trying to force something to go a certain way, stop, lift it back up, and replace it down, because we're not trying to force any of them. If you just kind of let them lay down naturally, they will go right where they're meant to. Okay, so just kind of folding toward the paper to kind of loosen that up, peel that paper off. Piece 4, 5, just kind of giving a little tug. And let's see, 5 is over here. Now some of 5 is going to get hidden by the little tree, so I'm not as worried about that, like lining up perfectly, but it right along the edge there to the top of the mountain. Number 6. This is seriously like one of the fastest. I mean, this is, I'm sure, the simplest design I have as far as like how quickly it will go together. I mean, if you're cutting it yourself, it's a little more complicated, right? You've got all these little tiny pieces. You've got this mountain, these little bears in the tree and all that stuff. But if you buy a laser kit, you will save yourself a lot of time. You'll have these beautifully cut pieces, and you can do this very easily in a day. Oh, shoot. So my glue just came off on my finger. Now, let's see, what do we do when we have something like this happen? I'm going to grab my little, well, I don't have my tiny scissors. Let me see. Oh, here they are. So I'm gonna grab my little thread scissors. Usually, I very rarely ever have this happen. This is sometimes when the fusible didn't get quite enough heat in a certain spot. So this goes back on here like this, right? Now what I can do is I can put my glue off here to the side. And then I'm going to turn my light off so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to lay my applique right back on top of the glue. It's very sticky glue. Okay, then I'm going to take the heat from my iron and I'm just going to press it on there for just a second or two. That's just going to warm that glue back up. And I'm going to leave it there for a minute to cool down. So let's skip forward to number 9. You know, I hate it when things like that happen because it's like, gosh, I mean, if you watch other videos, I don't know if I've ever had the glue. Oh, this one is wanting to do it too. Okay, so if you find that, again, press some heat, put some heat on it, let it cool off for a minute. Now, why would that be happening? It's because when I go to cut these in the laser machine, I have a big sheet of fusible with the fabric on top, and I'll iron over it like this to apply that heat to all my fusibles before they go into the laser machine. If you're ironing and you miss a little spot, it might not get quite enough heat and the fusible isn't sticking really well to your applique. And that's why sometimes the paper might want to, or I mean the glue might want to not stick to the fabric and wants to stay on the paper. But you can see just now that warm that glue up, it's nicely stuck to my paper. Blah, 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 stuck to my fabric. So this paper is designed so that the glue will want to release from it. It has sort of like a little bit of a coating to it. So when you put that heat, the glue is going to stick to your fabric and not continue to stick to this paper. So just so you know, if you do need to do that, you're not going to make it stick worse to the paper. You're going to make it stick to the fabric. Okay, so that one's good. And now this one should be good too. And I'm just going to peel this right up off my... And because it's kind of spiky everywhere, I'm just going to be gentle in my peeling. Okay, got that off. I see a little piece of glue that kind of came off to the side there. I'm going to move that. Okay, arrange this piece in place. Beautiful. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, what I say in the instructions is to go ahead and lightly fuse it so that you're putting heat. Oops, sorry about that. You're putting heat to these dark pieces and kind of sticking them into place on the light background. Because the background is one big solid piece, I can just peel that off and nothing's going anywhere. So at this stage, you can leave it on here if you so want. In other designs, when you have multiple pieces layering on each other, you definitely want to apply the heat. But because this one has one big piece as the background, it's not totally necessary. But all I would do right now is I would just put, for a couple seconds, just some dry heat on there. And that just warmed this glue up on these dark pieces and basically made them stick to this white or lighter background. And that way, nothing will fall off. So when I peel this up, well, I'm going to let it cool for a second because I don't want to stretch it. So when I go peel this up, these little pieces are now warmed up enough that the glue is holding to the background. So if I start going like this with it or I move it around, I don't have to worry that these are going to fall off. And that's what the advantage is of doing that. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel this off and you can see everything is nice. Nothing is falling off now. There we go. Okay. So next step in the process, we're going to go ahead and lay the background onto the layout guide. Here's our layout guide. And we're going to go and start arranging everything. So, background, turn on my light. Also, if you don't have a light table, you can always take a glass table and you can stick a lamp under it. You can even tape this onto your window and like take maybe some little clips. I have some little clippy things that are cut. Really nice for holding stuff in place. I don't remember, these are made by Clover. They have different sizes of them, but you can always take and like put a little clip here and there and kind of keep everything from moving around. It's kind of helpful. So now my background isn't going to move and shift on me. So that's another nice useful tool. Okay, so first thing we were going to do, right, was lay the background, arrange all Aurora, A through D. So find A. And these ones, they don't overlap, so it doesn't really, you don't really have to necessarily do it A through D. But there are designs of mine where when I have them in a certain order, numerical and or alphabetical, you definitely do want to kind of follow that rule, because a lot of the times I'll have something where one thing will overlap the other, and you want to do it in the right order so that they overlap correctly. When it comes to these particular Aurora pieces, because there's no overlap, it's actually not, it doesn't really matter, but we're still doing it in the correct order because I want to teach you guys best practices. Okay, so this one. And a lot of the times when I'm doing these larger pieces, I'm like actually kind of lining up this point here in the middle. I like to line up kind of from the center out, because it helps to keep it from, like, if you have any stretch as you've, you know, in the fabric, as you've peeled away the applique paper or something, it kind of takes that stretch and over a larger area, instead of like if I started up here and I'd stretched it a bit when I took this off, because it is a woven fabric, it will stretch, that it might go like too far down by the time I get there. If I start in the middle and it's stretched a bit, it kind of, I can't think of the word, but oh my goodness, it's too early in the day, guys. I seriously, I don't usually wake up till after about, I've been awake. Well, let's see. I wake up and it takes me about 2 hours before my brain is like ready to actually do stuff. And I've only been awake for an hour and a half. So we got 30 more minutes before my brain gets where I need to be. I'm gonna move this little clip because that's in the way and put it back. Distributes. Thank you. Okay. It distributes that stretch over a wider area. So if I've peeled that paper off and it stretched this 1/8 of an inch, if I start in the middle and I go this way and this way, each way is only moved by about 1/16 of an inch, versus if I start at the top and I go down, I have it 1/8 off on just one end. That makes sense. This one isn't such a big deal, but for some larger ones, are like stems on flowers that are these really long, thin pieces. And as you peel the paper off, sometimes it can stretch the weave a little bit. As you do that, if you start with a stem and you start in the middle and you go to the end and it hangs off a bit and you go up to the flower and the little maybe branches out to the different petals or different flowers, like on a group or something, if they're off a little bit, not a big deal. But if you start at the bottom, by the time you get up here, you're off by 1/4 of an inch. That's kind of a big deal. So anyway, so I like to usually start in the middle on bigger appliques. Okay, so we've done our auroras. Now we want to arrange our background, or our mountain, into the background. Super simple. Line it up with the bottom. Now we're going to arrange our tree bear applique. So this one here, it's a little delicate, has a lot of tiny pieces up here. One of the things I like to do with stuff like this is I just start, I'm going to start this one, and even though I just said stretch it out, I'm going to start kind of in the middle, but I'm only peeling the paper off this first section. I'm leaving the paper on all these little branches out here, because you know what's going to happen? I'm actually going to tear this off. What's going to happen is they're going to want to stick to themselves and each other, and that's just going to be a pain. So I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to find my little, here's my little bear. I'm going to line him up, and then I'm going to go down because I've got this all loose from the fabric or from the paper. Put these guys down. I'm not even real, I can't see so well through this at this point, and I know that I have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This is got a little crookedy here. I can straighten that out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to start doing the upper part. And I'm actually, even though, I know it's kind of hard to see because it's light out, I'm going to go ahead and peel this first branch off the paper. And then I'm going to lay it down. And I'm just going to kind of let it fall where it wants to. I'm going to tear that piece of paper off so it's out of my hair. Let this go. Okay, good. I'm going to peel a little bit more off. and kind of lay it down as we go. And I'm not, because it's a really long applique, and like I said, things do kind of stretch a little bit in these really skinny pieces sometimes. I'm not worried as much about following exactly where my background tells me all of these should go. I'm kind of guiding them in that general area, but if it's off a little bit, I don't care, because you know what's going to happen? Here we go. There, that's all free now. What's going to happen is in a few seconds, I'm going to take this layout guide out from underneath, and I'm just kind of gently lifting and laying them down. Gently lifting and laying them down. Beautiful. So now the layout guide isn't visible. So if I was off by 1/8 of an inch here or there, you wouldn't even know it now, right? Nobody would know. Nobody cares. Now that the layout guide's gone, and now that you're looking at it finished here, which I'm sorry, I know that in my video, it's hard to show the entire thing because I have it on wide screen like you would do when you're watching a movie, but a lot of my designs are tall. To see it close, I zoom out a bit, but now you can see it sideways. So just turn your head to the left and you'll see it beautifully. Okay, so now everything's done. This is done. We finished the middle as far as all of our arrangements. So now that we've got that, we're going to fuse everything well. And then after we get it fused, we would sew on our borders. So let's go through the fusing process just so everybody knows how to do it correctly, because this is a very important step. Okay, so my eye just beeped at me. It likes to go to sleep. We'll wake her up a second. So the first thing that we're going to do is, if you'll notice, like here's a little piece that's wanting to kind of curl up a little bit, and everything is just been laid down onto the background. It has no heat to it. So things are kind of, you could get your finger under there, you could lift them. We don't want to get our iron on there, and we do not want to press down and iron by like moving back and forth, right? Because what's going to happen is I'm going to move this way, and this little piece that's peeling up, it's going to just peel right up. The glue is going to get stuck on the bottom of my iron, and I'm going to ruin my applique. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to take dry heat on our iron, and we're just going to press, leave it a second or two, lift, press the next area, lift and press. And the reason we're doing that is because we don't want to move any of the appliques by accidentally ironing against them. We want to warm this glue up, get it to stick gently to the background and each other. Right now, we're not fusing yet. We're just warming it up so it will stay in place, just like we did with the mountain pieces, so that they don't fall off, right? So we're just lifting, press, lifting, press. Okay, we're good to go. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually permanently steam everything on here. So if you have an iron with a steamer that you trust, you can now apply steam by holding your iron about within 1 inch of the appliques, blasting it with steam for about a count of 5-6 seconds, and then placing dry heat directly on that spot you steamed for another 8 to 10 seconds. I know that gives a lot of people anxiety to just leave it heating that long, but that's what you want to do. My iron is not trustworthy. It has spit out like calcium and iron onto my appliques before, even when I put good, nice water in it. So I don't know how it did that, but because she's called the reliable. Yeah, right. So because I don't trust my iron, I actually just use a water bottle. And this is just water from my tap. We have a lot of iron in our water, but it's clear enough. It's fine. It's not going to spit out huge deposits of iron. So I'm just going to pretty generously wet this. And then I'm going to take my iron with dry heat only. I don't know if you could hear that little sizzle. I'm just going to set it down there, and I'm going to leave it there for about 8 to 10 seconds. And what it's doing right now is it's evaporating all that steam. All that moisture is getting inside the glue and making it all nice and lovely and sticky. And it's fusing it to my background. So now I'm going to lift. I'm going to go to the next footprint, and I'm going to put that on there. And if you pick this up and you feel like, oh, it still feels a little damp, you can put your iron back on it too. And this is all we're going to do. And we're going to do this over the entire applique, one footprint at a time. And I know when I taught on a cruise, this step sometimes just really brought a lot of ladies anxiety, because I said, put your hand off the iron, leave it alone. And it was like, it's going to burn a hole through my beautiful design. And it's not going to burn it, not in the 8 to 10 seconds. And it really does need that heat. Just does a it's like putting a steak on the grill. Like, you want to hear that sizzle? I love hearing that, like, because I know that means it's creating steam right now. So I'm just going to let this keep going, and we're going to do the entire thing. And by the end of it, if you're ever a little nervous about, like, I'm not sure if it got the steam really, really well, if it's in there enough, if it's fused enough, I've always told people, if you're one of the people who's very concerned about possible loose appliques, you can always go and steam it from the back afterwards. Go do the entire process from the reverse. And what that does, which is a good part, is it makes sure that that steam has gone through every layer to the back layer that is actually against your background. So going through and doing another steam from the back is a great idea. And I do that sometimes, not with this one I'm not so worried about. It does have, like right here, we do have a few spots that have multiple layers, but in general, most of the time, ones like this, you're getting that steam in there really well all the way through. So I don't worry about it as much. But I have a few designs like my sea otter, my black bear, where in the face, you might have 5 layers in some areas, like his nose, that might have the nose, and then or maybe the nostril, then the nose, then the face behind it, and maybe even another piece behind that that's part of the greater head of the animal. And so when you have that many layers, yeah, I do kind of want to make sure that that final layer, that's the one that's actually stuck to the background, is getting steam and getting it well. Because I have found with Steam-A-Seam, just dry heat does not provide the same type of fuse as steamed heat. And I know that on their instructions, they say you can use dry or steam. But I really have found that people who've only ever used dry heat have told me that they have issues with things peeling off. And when people used to tell me years ago, when I went to my first quilt market, my only quilt market actually, I had some people who, when I told them I used Steam-A-Seam, they were like, oh, I hate Steam-A-Seam. And I said, why? It's great. And they said, well, my stuff always comes off. And I found that the reason was usually because they were not using steam. And I was like, it's in the name, Steam-A-Seam. But for a little while, Steam-A-Seam did change their instructions, and they didn't even include steam, which surprised me. And they've since gone back and put that, because the people that were having trouble weren't using steam, and I found that they weren't applying the heat long enough when I talked to them. And so I always said, you want to use steam, and I always use steam. And I have things that I've been designing since 2007. So I'm on my 19th year now. Yeah, 19 years. In March was my first design I did, was in 2007 in March. And so I've been using Steam-A-Seam even before that. I used to do, I'm sure a lot of you know McKenna Ryan, when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I used to make a lot of her designs for my family, for their quilt shop, for samples. And she used Steam-A-Seam, and I learned how to use it. Came out around the time I was maybe 18 or 19, and my mom showed me how to use it. And that, oh, you can do these really intricate appliques without the turned edge. And I thought, oh, this is a really cool product. This is really great. And then when I was in college and I was working for my family's store, I would make a lot of their samples, and a lot of them we did were McKenna Ryan's, because at the time, and I'm just going through here and just making sure the steam and the moisture's evaporated. So I'm just going over this. But anyhow, I made a lot of her samples, and she used Steam-A-Seam. I never questioned how you would use it, because I learned how. My mom showed me how when it first came out, and that's just always how I used it. But I did find a couple things in my experience using it. 1, always use steam. 2, put your iron on about a medium setting, because if your iron gets too hot, it can do what I call frying the glue. And it's where the glue kind of becomes a little transparent, and you'll see it has like a weave to it that's sort of like a bunch of little dots, and you'll notice it on lighter colors in particular. If you see some little dots kind of showing up, that is like these tiny little dots from the weave of the Steam-A-Seam, your iron's too hot. So turn it down. You'll notice my iron's on a pretty high setting. That's I would probably have it here. My iron isn't again, the reliable iron. It doesn't get very hot. So I know my iron, and I know that the hot setting isn't that hot on my iron. So I put it up there, but I usually tell people to start at a medium setting and make sure you're not seeing that. And when you're doing it, but the steam, now that we're done, I can sit here with my fingernail. Nothing is coming up. Nothing is fraying when I do this, but it is very well stuck. So this is done. I've been jabbering, so I mean, we could have been done a lot faster. And my little clippy to hold my phone up is over my thing, so I can't see quite how long we've been going. But this is one of the fastest designs I have. And for all the jabbering I did, we could have been done a long time ago. But at this point, all I will do now is sew my borders on, and then you do your quilting and binding, and then you're finished. So I hope that you will try one of these. I hope that you have learned something from this, and it takes away any fear or anxiety about how detailed some of my designs are. Again, like these Aurora Nights ones are so simple, really easy to put together, really quick. And if you live in Alaska, you know the Aurora, and if you've been to Alaska, Aurora is a big thing up here. So if you haven't come please, and enjoy the Aurora. Of course, that's more winter. I don't always recommend Alaska in the winter, but if you don't mind the cold, it is beautiful. I have a beautiful state. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you again soon.